Take his mark, believe the lie to chill their hearts. They'll know the time has come to seal their fate.
One street over there's a life I could have known, one beyond my wildest dreams. Maybe that road could have carried me to streets of gold, but things aren't always as they seem. Looking back on all the chances that I missed, some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist, I wondered what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known, that would have kept me from the one I have today.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I've been out a bit. I know, but it's, I'm a school teacher now. And so I took some time off while we had that school break. And I'm just really appreciate Lee Marie for coming in and holding down the fort while I was out. And I feel like it's, I feel, kind of discombobulated when I'm not in here. So it's good to be back. I've got to be on a schedule. I am just one of those people that I seem to get nothing done unless I have got a schedule that I'm punching. Christy Driscoll's in the house with me. How you doing, sister?
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I figured I'd better say something about the fact I've been out for a little bit, but I just, I'm going to take my breaks. And when that's the coolest thing. I'm not going to be off all summer, but I'm going to take a couple of breaks during the summer, and I'll take spring break off as long as Lee Marie's available to cover the show. And, I think there's something, I've never taken much time off from my jobs.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to do that now that I'm older, and it's nice. I like it.
It sounds really nice. When do you go back?
Today, actually, the teachers are back today. We were supposed to have teacher in service, basically professional development starting at 8 today, but they've postponed it till noon because they weren't really sure what the roads would do.
You know what's interesting? I didn't get much snow out my place, but the more I came into town, the more south I got, the more snow I saw, and I was expecting more up north. So
you just never know. And speaking of, let me put my traffic hat on. This is one of those days whenever I was a traffic reporter, we'd say, watch out for your bridges and overpasses. You could have some slick stuff out there because the temperature dropped and there was still some moisture on the road. But for the most part, I had zero problems. How about you?
I didn't have any problems at all.
I didn't have any trouble at all. And you came in from, how far of a drive do you have before this to the studio?
It took me 18 minutes.
See, so, I was on the road for like 5 because I'm 2 miles away. So I'm not a good gauge, but, you drove a bit. So
from up toward Kentucky. So.
Yeah, there you go. So that gives you an idea. And as you're looking, we'll just I'll have to get Bill Jones in here to kind of give us a weather update because I know we've got some snow predicted coming in at the end of the week on Friday and Saturday, which bums me out because that is our that's when we're celebrating our seniors, our early graduates at school. And so I just I hope their schedule won't get upended because those kids are, they're early graduates. They're ready to get on with it. They're ready to graduate and be done. And I've got seniors in my homeroom. And so I've got 4 that are graduating early. And it's going to be so weird not having them because they've been there ever since I got to school.
Yeah, I hope that all works out.
Yeah, really I do too. I don't want them to have to postpone their graduation and stuff. So hopefully we'll be able to get that done. That's the hardest thing. I love snow days. They're fun. But
I do too. This is my favorite time of the year.
Yeah.
As a horse person, you would think I'd like the heat better, but I love it. The flies are gone. Everything is darker. I get that, but there's lights and flashlights. I have a headlamp that I wear around the farm that I love, but I just like it. I like as an introvert, I love when things get canceled. So
yeah,
I really
see,
like it.
people don't believe me when I say I'm very introverted because I'm, I do what I do, but I'm super introverted.
Yeah.
And I really am. And they're always trying to get me to do different things at church and all that kind of stuff. And I'm totally fine teaching classes and doing those kinds of things. But when it comes to social settings, it's not my
Super
thing.
awkward.
No,
Yeah.
it's not my thing. And I don't know why. So, and everybody's like, oh, you're on the radio. And I was like, there's a lot of introverts on the radio. People don't realize that because I mean, this is where I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird dynamic. So I should call you. Let's see, Captain. Let's see, Chief.
Yes.
Christy Driscoll. That was the coolest thing, getting to go and watch you become Chief Christy Driscoll. You are one of my heroes because I mean, from a woman's perspective, doing what you're doing militarily and all of that. And I just love seeing you in your green. I just love it. I just love it. I'm like, that's my friend.
I know. I was very excited you guys were there.
We were so thrilled to be there. I'm so impressed with you and your family. And thank you for your service because your family has served big. You and your dad, your brother, of course, you and Matt both served.
Yep.
And
then my daughter.
And now Hannah.
Yeah.
And is Noah thinking still?
He's going back and forth. He is. His cousin recently joined the Air Force too. Actually, he graduates from basic training the 14th. So that's another family member that he's closely related to. So yeah.
Well, see, and that's the thing. And he and I talked at your ceremony, and because I had heard that he was considering it, and I can't say enough about it. It was such a hi, Paul. Paul's like, look who's back. I know I've been goofing off, man. Anyway, not really, but I was talking with Noah because my son Jedediah, my middle kid, cannot say enough about what it did for him. He was really, he just has so many things that he could be doing, and he just got off track coming out of high school and just took a wrong path. And oh my goodness, I'll never forget getting the call because it's back when I was working at the Blaze, and I was standing online, getting on a plane, go back to Dallas. And I saw he was calling me, and I was like, oh no, what has he done? Love my son, want to talk to him, but I'm just like anticipating, hey, Mom, in some kind of drama, right?
Yeah.
And I said, hey, babe, how you doing? He goes, Mom, I'm in the Army. I was like, yes. I was thrilled. But anyway, and it was just the best thing in the world for him. And so anyway, but Christy is here. We're going to, like I said, I kind of have to unpack for you her military stuff because it's so super cool. And maybe we'll circle back to what you do and what you can talk about and all that kind of thing and how long you've been in the military. But you wanted, Matt, and for full disclosure, Matt and Christy and I are dear friends. It's so funny how our friendship started. And, this guy, Matt Driscoll, messaged me, and I was like, who is this guy? I remember getting the message. I want to talk to y'all about Celebrate Recovery, and we need to have we're going to have a Celebrate Recovery in Springfield. And I thought, we got all kinds of recovery stuff around here because we've got the Covenant Confirmers, we got all the stuff they do over at South Haven, all this kind of stuff.
And the courthouse. Remember you talk about that, so I don't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
But what's funny about that, I had recorded that first show, and I was going through some of my recordings, and I came across that a couple weeks ago, and I listened to it, and he's talking about Celebrate Recovery, and you're like, oh yeah, we have recovery court. So I remember, it's so funny. I just listened to that a little bit ago.
Because I was so confused. I was like, because he was like, well, no, we don't have a Celebrate Recovery. And I'm like, well, we've got all kinds of recovery things. I didn't get the difference. I didn't get the uniqueness of what Celebrate Recovery was, right? And so and it took me a minute. And honestly, that entire show, I don't think I fully got it, if you listen to it. Because, we're just meeting for the first time. And he stayed after it. He did. And, and we've just been great friends. And it was also right at the cusp of COVID.
Yep. It was March of 2020.
Right.
Yep.
And so as everything was happening with COVID, and he and I started talking, and here I was full-time at church, and they're like, okay, you're going to need to stay home. You need to find things to do that you can do from home. And I'm like, well, I don't know. This is Jesus' money. If I'm going to work for Jesus, I need to be doing something at home. I mean, I wanted to find something, not just sit around and, I don't know. I wanted to absolutely find something I could pour myself into and say, yes, this is legit. I'm doing this. This is going to be helpful for the church. And so I started attending and checking it out and seeing what it was. And it's so funny. So many of my friends that are involved with Celebrate Recovery did the same thing. They're like, I think I'm going to help with this. I'm going to be the volunteer. I'm going to be the person. I'm going to be the staff member that's going to bring this to my congregation. Going to do the things that for other people.
Exactly.
I'm bringing it because other people need this. And then as soon as you get into it, you realize, ooh, I need this. And you realize how deeply you need it.
100%. That's exactly. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But that's the thing with and Paul Rainey's on. I mean, they help with it, and then I've got also so many different people that have come in, and they're like, we all have hurts, habits, and hangups. And I'm sitting here talking about people we're not supposed to be telling who was working with it, but they're out in front volunteers at my church, and so people know they work with it, and they very boldly say, "It's been a help to me. It's been a life changer for me." Life changer for me. So tell your story on that.
That's exactly how I got into it. So I went to Celebrate Recovery for the first time at Long Hollow Baptist Church in Hendersonville, Memorial Day of 2016.
Okay.
I had found out that Matt was having an affair. He had also had a drinking problem, and he was trying to find help. Yeah. And he's like, "Hey, you want to come with me?" I was like, "I don't have any problems, but I'll make sure that you're going to get fixed." And I was there for that. I was there to make sure that he was getting fixed. I didn't have any problems. I tell people that he was my problem.
Yeah.
And it took me about 6 months, honestly. I was struggling a lot with anger, and it took me a little bit. I jumped into a step study, then I had gotten upset, and I had left, and I went trying to find help somewhere else, and that was a lot of dead end roads. And so I kind of came back. And one of the things that's beautiful about Celebrate Recovery, I think it's kind of like the AA meetings, to where they're everywhere. So I went to a different church, but it is a very small community. So at that different church, there were some people there from the bigger church at Long Hollow, and the lesson that night happened to be on anger. And God was speaking directly to me. I was mean, I was angry, I was resentful, and I was just unlovable. And those women loved on me like no one had ever had before, and I had never experienced that in a church. And everybody has good intentions, but what my experience through church was more so of the looking down on people, and you kept your problems hidden. You showed up to church with a smile, and this fake smile, and you pretended everything was okay. And the vulnerability and the transparency that Celebrate Recovery has, I fell in love with Jesus through that. And I understood really who Jesus is, and then what the church is supposed to be.
Amen.
And I absolutely love Celebrate Recovery. So they're all throughout the country. It's international. You can find a location anywhere. So
we've got one starting up in Greenbrier now.
Yes,
I forget which one is it? Calvary.
Calvary, yes. My kids used to go there for preschool.
So and so we'll be talking to them. But so I mean, they literally are everywhere. And I want to say, are they a Sunday night one?
I don't know the day.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that, and that kind of surprised me, because a lot of the times they have not necessarily had them on Sunday night, because that is a night that everybody figures, well, you've got your church. But I think it's a great option, because a lot of churches have stopped having Sunday night services.
I think it's great.
Yeah, I think it is too. I'm kind of thinking it is a Sunday night
that
one.
is really good.
And I'm still kind of in Christmas break mode.
Like, what day is it? What year is it?
I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to get all the clarification going.
I was like, are we still in 2025? Like,
No.
it's been like a long year already this week.
I know, isn't that funny? But that's the thing. That's the background for our friendship. And so you'll see, Matt in here as often as we can get him in here, because we're both teaching now. I'm off usually when he's off, so that's why he came in last week with Lean Marie. And so we just haven't been able to get our schedules together. But he was like, hey, we got to get Christy in here, because you did this really cool thing with Safe Harbor. And Safe Harbor Sanctuary. And when you first started talking about it, I thought it was something that you would start. I'm going to start Safe Harbor Sanctuary, but it's not. It's part of a bigger thing. And the more I learn about it, the more fascinated I am by it. But you have this deep love of animals, horses specifically. You love all animals. I think I can fairly say,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But you do have a unique relationship with horses, and I'm intrigued by that because I've always loved the idea of having horses, but have just never been able to really properly facilitate it, and there's so much cost involved.
Very, and there's a lot of work.
It's a
like
lot
my
of
entire
work,
night
and-
was horses. So yeah.
So you figure that I've just never been able to wrap my head around how it would work. I don't see that really happening in my life, but I do admire those who do.
You just happen to know
And-
somebody to help you out.
There you go. I do. Well, and you know Sally Shawman that lives on my road.
Yep.
See, and she's a dear friend, and she's always saying the same thing. I can get you set up, LaVern. We can do it. We can do it. But now the horses that I'm interested in are the giants. Just like I like the
Clydesdale?
giant dogs. Well, no, I'm
No,
talking
which
like
one?
Belgians. and-
Belgians, yes.
Yeah, I'm talking like that's what my husband's family raised. And the Belgians, and what's the other one? There's Belgians and Percherons, and they're amazing. I would love to have a pulling pair of those that we could do, just things around town with, and just
You said a pull and pair, like driving.
Yeah.
You know, the past couple of years, somebody's been doing that in downtown Springfield around the holidays. Have you seen that?
all those carriage rides.
Yes,
Yeah, but I
yeah.
don't know if there's a. Are they? I don't know. I guess maybe they are pulling. They may be. I don't know what kind of horses they are.
I
but
have no idea.
I've gone on a couple of them because they happen to do it.
Springfield?
Yeah, they happen to do it right on my birthday. So my 60th birthday, that's what we did.
Oh, that is so cool.
My 60th birthday, we did that, and then we did it the next year, and then this year for my 62nd, it just didn't. The timing wasn't right, and also too, they changed signups on it. So just heads up, if you want to do that, be watching next year because they did a digital online sign up. By the time I even heard about it, it was booked.
Okay.
But it is fine. But I had done it a couple of times, and it is fun. It is a lot of fun. But see, I love that. I think that's a neat thing. And I'm trying to build a photography business. I've done zero photography this past year, and there's several reasons why. I did a couple of little things, but I just could not do it this year. And so I'm going to, as we go into spring, kind of re-up going back into photography. And so that would be a wonderful thing to have.
It would.
For photography. I know you were trying to get some pictures together for horses and all of that at Christmas. I would have helped you with that if there was any way I could have, but there was no way I could.
Yeah, it was a fundraiser we were trying to do.
Yeah,
so with
so-
one of our horses, and we got someone from Long Hollow that
good.
came out and took photos for us,
Well,
and
good,
it was
good,
absolutely
good.
amazing.
I bet. I bet it was. Well, that's wonderful. And this is all about the Safe Harbor Sanctuary. And so, like I said, as I was looking at this, I thought this is something where you were rescuing horses and then you developed it yourself, but it's not.
No.
So tell me about Safe Harbor.
So Safe Harbor Sanctuary, I do believe that we are starting our 14th year. It could be our 15th year. I might be off a little bit on that, but I came across Safe Harbor in 2019. What's kind of funny about that was my dad is the one that started it. We had horses when I was a teenager, and he was wanting to get back into horses. And he's like, I'm going to start volunteering at Safe Harbor. And he kind of sent me the information. I was like, oh, yeah, I've seen them on Facebook. I donated one time to them. Let me pause here. And what's funny about that, I just happened to see on Facebook where they were rehabbing this horse, and they were asking for money to help pay for it. So I threw $25 at it. About 6 months later, I adopted that horse.
Oh, how funny.
I didn't realize that till it popped up in my memory a little, I came across it a couple
how
years later. So
funny.
yeah. Anyways, back to the story. So I was like, yep, I want to get back into horses as well. So I went to, we have newcomers orientation for all new volunteers. I went to that in May of 2019. I started volunteering at a foster farm just in White House, just about 20 minutes away from where I lived. At the time, we lived in Greenbrier. And I started volunteering there. And so I volunteered at White House, and then I started volunteering at a foster farm in Cottontown. Absolutely fell in love with it, love what they do. Then one of the horses that I was working with is a standardbred, and he reminded me so much of this quarter horse that I used to do barrel race. I used to dabble in barrel racing at like a little pony club down the road kind of thing. So
Right,
nothing like professional or anything.
Right.
He did all the work. I just jumped on and hung on.
You're just
kind
like,
of
woo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be that young again, you fall off and get back on. But so I was like, yes. And I fell in love with this horse named Bosco. And we were trying to get him adopted, and the director was advertising him. And I'm like, I don't want anybody else to own this horse. So I called up my dad. I was like, almost 40 years old. Daddy, can I get a horse? And he's like, yes. And so, but we lived in a subdivision in Greenbrier.
Yeah.
So, it turned into putting our house.
Your dad had the land.
My dad still lived where we had the horses at when I was a teenager in the 90s.
Okay.
So yeah. And one horse turned into two. We sold. We put our house up on the market at the subdivision in Greenbrier. Just the God thing of it all. The property next to the place that I grew up in came up for sale, and so we bought that. We remodeled that building on that property, kind of turned it into a house, and 2 horses turned into 4, then turned into 5. So I have 5 horses now. So I've been with the story behind that was me personally with Safe Harbor, but been with them since 2019. Moving, having horses of my own, I wasn't able to get out on that side of town that often. So I kind of got involved more so with some administrative stuff and doing volunteer coordination. So I work with the volunteers, and after doing that for a couple of years, I got voted on to be a board member, so I serve on the board with them. So I've been with them since 2019. When we started, or when Safe Harbor started in about 14, 15 years ago, it was all kinds of animals from it actually started off as a dog rescue, and then it got into livestock, so cows, donkeys, goats, sheep, and now we focus, over the years, it transitioned just to horses, but just starting this year now we're in 25, just starting 24, we were focusing just on the standardbred horses. So we were talking about pulling carts earlier. And standardbred horses are bred to do the harness racing. So, a lot of people are very familiar with the thoroughbreds that, like Secretariat, run really fast around the track. But the standardbred horses, they pull the cars. So if you seen that, the harness racing?
Yeah. I'm from Kentucky.
Oak Grove, Kentucky.
Yeah.
So I went to one of those races just this past spring. So we're a little smaller now. We're focusing just on standardbreds.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's an absolute great organization. I love working with them. We still help people out if they're trying to rehome any horses. We have a Facebook page called Friends Helping Friends that we can advertise for you if you're trying to rehome your horse or any other kind of livestock or animal. We are plugged in with a lot of other rescues and stuff. So we get contacted about dog rescues and things like that. But there's not a whole lot that we can do with the dogs other than just point them to a different location. So
when you talk about rehabbing and rehoming and all that kind of thing, because so many people like me, they're interested, and then they get into it and it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do dog rescues. We used to do Newfoundland and St. Bernard rescues. And I mean, we had a bunch of them at one time. And that's what happened with one of the best sets we had. We had a breeding pair that somebody had gotten, and they were going to raise puppies, and it just was too much. Mm-hmm. And so we ended up rescuing those. But that's what happens is when you talk about rehoming, people get into this, and they're thinking, this is more than I thought. It's a lot. My husband has, when we've talked about doing, having horses and stuff, he says, well, if we're going to get horses, you may well put a bucket right beside the door and drop $100 bill in it every time you walk in the door.
It is very
it's
expensive.
so expensive. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't think we can afford that then.
And not to get off track a little bit, but people do that. They're like, oh, you just, they just eat grass. Like, what else do you need? But well, if you just have one field, they're going to eat all that grass, and then where else are you going to put them? And they are very expensive. So
it. I mean, we have different ones on. We have several people that keep horses on the road I live on, and there's different styles. Like some will give a lot of hay. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to. I mean, hay's expensive, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah. So what does a roll of hay cost right now?
So the big rolls of hay range between $50 to $75.
Oh, that's not as bad as I thought. Okay.
And then your square bale is just regular hay. You're looking at about, the cheapest that I see it anymore is $6, but it's $9. And if you get into alfalfa, or special hay, more 14 on up. Yeah. Some people get it shipped in better places, better weather, and it's just the hay industry is it is hard just with weather and all, just like all farming. But yeah,
because I mean, that's one thing with us having land. I reforested it. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people are like, we could have grown hay on that. And I'm like, but I wanted trees. I wanted woodlands. And so I get that, but and I know I've got neighbors that have acreage, and they'll let it grow up, and then they'll cut it for hay. But then that's just standard hay. That's just grass, right? That's not anything like you're talking about with alfalfa. So that would be just like a $6 bale, I guess, or whatever. So it's interesting. I mean, I grew up on a farm. I grew up with this stuff. I grew up us hauling hay. I mean, we hauled hay on our farm, and that's one of the things that was, one of the tasks we had as an earlier, early in my life. So, I mean, I get all that, but it's a lot. People just don't realize what it is. And I've got this great livestock barn. Everybody's like, oh, you're set up perfectly. I'm like, but then all the money. And the time, I don't have that. And so I just can't,
And we're talking a lot about like maybe the negatives, but there's.
We need to do the positives.
Probably,
let's turn it. Yeah, let's turn it. Let's turn it.
Well, don't let me forget, because one of the things that Safe Harbor does with our foster farms is we reimburse the hay and the feed and vet bills and farrier and things like that. So
really?
Yeah. So don't let me forget when we get into talking about fosters, but
well, then that changes everything.
It does, yes.
Okay.
But horses are absolutely rewarding. I mean, they're just being around them, just how they help with like PTSD, just emotional trauma, things like that. So there's just scientific evidence between how they can help people, and that's something I absolutely love about being around with the horses. My dream, I've got about 3 years, and we're in January now, 3 years and 4 months, and I get to retire from the military. And I want to work with animals. I want to kind of combine the worlds of Celebrate Recovery and my farm, and I want to do equine assisted therapy. We have the goats, and I joke I want to do goat yoga, but it is beautiful just watching the healing that happens with animals and people. So it's absolutely worth it. And I was talking before we got on, but I don't get to ride nowhere near as much as I really wish that I could for all the reasons we were talking about. But just being around them is calming. Yeah. And they're just absolutely beautiful creatures, and it's totally worth it. So
but and see, what you said about reimbursements, I had no idea.
Yes. So
that's crazy, because I mean that changes everything. And I do hate that we kind of went kind of negative there. I didn't mean to, but it's kind of the thing that kind of hangs over my head when I think, oh, I would love to have horses. But if they work with Safe Harbor, then there is an avenue for fundraising and to get reimbursed, to where you're just putting the time in and having the housing, but you've got a way to get some of the financial restitution. That's cool.
Yeah, so we're not a central location. We used to be, but the original founder of Safe Harbor moved and sold her place, and that place is now one of our foster farms. So we have foster farms, just like fostering other animals or fostering kids. We have foster farms all throughout Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky. So you foster horses for us. We'll do reimbursements up to the average cost, like $50 for a bell, or the $6 for the square bell, or the recommended grain feed and things like that. So we're reimbursed for that. We're reimbursed for farrier, and the farriers are the hoofs that clean the shoes and things like that, or trim their hoofs. And
one of my nephews up north is a farrier.
Yeah.
So, but that's cool. That's really cool.
And then vet visits, because we're just talking about feeding them so far, but also for the vet visits. So that's something that we really need is fosters. And when we get done, I'll put a link to the foster information and the volunteers too. So we also are 100% volunteer basis. We don't have anyone on staff. My director, Elizabeth's absolutely amazing. She's like this superwoman that has all this knowledge, and she just seems to be this one-woman show, just run it all, and I'm just trying to help the best I can. And then we have our volunteers that help out with the foster farm. So if you do become a foster for us, and if you're comfortable with it, I'll hook you up with a volunteer that will come out and help you feed, or at least something that we really like to do is at least do weekly help with the volunteers coming out.
It's so funny. Was flipped over to the WSGI page. Matt's on there, and he goes, "Get goats. How does it work? This may be the prettiest guest you've ever had." Thank you, Matt. I didn't see. He's talking about his bride. He said, "Get goats." Something about get goats. So I'm sorry. Because I figured he'd be watching on my page, but he's actually on the WSGI page.
I don't know how he's watching. He's driving to work.
Are they back in school today?
Yes, he has teacher. What do you call it? In service
professional development. Yeah, ours got knocked down till noon, so they gave us a few. Yeah, they're giving us a delayed start. So, because they were a little afraid it was going to be, I'm sorry, I interrupted you when I saw
You
Matt's
should be
stuff on
driving
there.
by here soon. So yeah.
So yeah, there you go. But that's the thing. And so if you're interested in this, just like I know time wise, that would probably be the thing then. So I can't say that the money would be an issue. But time wise, what are you talking about? Like a time commitment? Like if I've got a perfect farm for this. So what kind of a time commitment?
So it really
do I have to
depends
make?
on the needs of the horses. And what we
Okay.
do is we have a couple of our farms to where the person doesn't work, for example, and we have a place in Bethpage, and she's absolutely amazing with rehabbing horses. So rehab horse comes in maybe neglect, some situation like that, where they need extra care, healing from wounds or gaining weight. And that's a lot. That's a feeding 2 to 3 times a day, medicine, exercise, training, things like that. So we have farms that specialize in that. But if you're working, like I am away from the house 12 hours a day, but I still have 5 horses to take care of. My day starts at 3:30 in the morning to do that. So depending on your needs and stuff is really what it comes into. So, but we would definitely place a person with a horse based off of what they could commit. So if you're just looking at a healthy horse, you're looking at feeding them just once a day, and that would work on based off of your schedule. You want to keep it the same every day for their digestive tract and stuff. So, but feeding them, like my horses that require just the once a day feeding, they get fed in the evenings when it's more time conducive for me.
Okay.
So that's just the daily thing. And then looking them over, grooming them, doing their hoofs. You want to try doing that at least once a day. I don't always, if I'm being honest, that doesn't always happen every day, but that's where the volunteers really help out. But that's just being with the horse, just checking to make sure there's no injuries, that their feet are looking good, because the horse's feet is like one of the most important aspects of a horse's body. I mean, I won't get into all that, but you just want to make sure that it's healthy. So the summertime is pretty easy. You just when I say pest, more so insects and flies and things like that. The wintertime is when the hay comes in there and you're giving them hay. If you're not doing the round bell, then you got to work out some way of doing the square bells and feeding that 2 to 3 times a day. So, but like you use an example, your situation, you would get probably an easy keeper that wouldn't require a whole lot of attention or needs and things like that. And then again, if you're comfortable, we'd have a volunteer that come out at least once a week, and they'll groom the horse for us and just check and make sure that it's healthy, that the hoofs look good and things like that.
Okay. So, it's very doable. If you're somebody that you think you don't have the time, you may have more time than you realize. It's kind of like when we did all the dog rescues. I don't know how in the world we took care of all the dogs we did, but we did. Of course, we had kids at home and things like that. And I think if you've got kids at your house, oh my gosh, that'd be such a great thing to get them involved. And a lot of people are in situations where they've got a little bit of land now, and people desire that. I don't know, I just see more people seeking that, to have like a little bit of acreage, to grow some gardens and those types of things. But when it comes to housing a horse, what kind of acreage do you really need per animal?
So the safest thing is 2 acres per horse, and that's to where it's eating grass, as long as grass is there, and that's giving you better manure management and things like that, less parasites.
Yeah.
If you have less than 2 acres per horse, which I run into this situation sometimes the way my fields are set up, you have to feed hay. It's absolutely doable. All kinds of people keep horses like this. You just got to feed hay year round.
Yeah.
And over time, if you're keeping the horses just in one field, they're going to tear your grass up and it won't grow back. There's things you could do. You could section it off, plant grass, move them around, but you're going to want some kind of rotation system setting up. What a lot of farms do is they just have basically like a dry lot where the horse stays. There is no grass, and they just get fed hay year round.
Really? Okay, so you can do that.
Yeah.
Okay, because
Yeah.
interesting. But I just, because I see all these different setups with farms and stuff. And some that I think, okay, how in the world have you got a horse on that, like you said, a dry lot, and they don't have the grass or anything? So you can do it. You can do it if you've got the place, a little barn, and all of that. You can love on a horse and
Yeah, and you mentioned a barn, so Shelter. So one of the things is for us, a safe fence, and I won't bore you with the definition of a safe fence, but a safe fence, shelter, and it doesn't always have to be a barn. Not everybody has a barn, but they at least have tree lines they can get out of the weather for. And most healthy horses don't need to be blanketed. Blankets is another big issue. The horse people disagree a lot with, but I'll have some people that'll say, I would love to foster, but I don't have to have a barn. You don't necessarily have to have a barn. Shelter, tree line could be acceptable, and for safe harbor, we just wouldn't place a horse with you that would require a barn.
Okay, because some of them do, some of them don't. You were talking about taking care of the hooves and stuff, and like I said, I have a nephew up north that is a farrier, and he does a lot of things. It's just one of the things. But he is owner of the farm that the big horses were raised on. I don't think they have any horses right now.
This is on your husband's side?
This is my husband's side. He grew up. I mean, that's how we've got a really cool picture of his dad with a big Belgian that's pulling logs. And I mean, they were their workhorses, and they would pull, they did competitive pulling and all of that up north for years and years.
Oh, how cool.
And so Jacob grew up with that, and so he became a farrier and all of that. Now they have since his dad passed, I think they've just kind of let the horses go, but it's just a neat heritage up there. So I get all that, but I've always been kind of curious about horses. And when they're out in the wild, they're not shoed and they don't have anything done to their hooves. So what's the difference? Why is it when they're domesticated, we have to take care of their hooves and put shoes on them in comparison to wild horses?
I hear that a lot. It's so funny you say that.
Because I'm just real curious about that.
This weather, it was like to blanket or not to blanket. And everybody is on Facebook like discussing it kind of thing. And then you're like, wild horses don't have blankets. So a wild horse moves a whole lot more than a domestic horse does. So the more active a horse is, their how can I explain this? Their hoofs don't grow, or they grow differently and stuff. So a wild horse hoofs is not going to be as trimmed and neat as a domestic horse, and their lifestyle's different. They're moving faster, or not faster, but longer, more. So it grows differently. If I'm making any sense, I really hope that farriers aren't on listening because they're like cringing right now. But yeah,
but so if you see a horse that's in the wild, their hoof is going to look a lot different.
I would think so. Yeah. I got to be honest. I actually have never seen a wild horse's hoof. So.
Okay. But I mean, but you think about that.
Yeah.
You think about that. And so I had never even thought about the fact that if they're out in the wild, they're kicking it off and they're keeping it worn down and those kinds of things.
Yes. And
so it would make a difference.
And I think about like a wolf versus a dog,
Right.
They're more accustomed to that lifestyle. They're adapting to it. There's things that a wolf doesn't get that a dog, I don't know if that's a good example or not, that they're not going to get.
Right.
And then in general, maybe possibly they're not as healthy as domestic, or they're more healthy. I mean, that kind of comes into horses that live out 24/7 versus a horse that's in the barn almost 24/7, which is healthier. So it just really, it's a very indecisive world, the horse world.
It.
So,
well, it depends on what you're. I mean, it's just the same thing with kids.
Yeah,
you see, it's a different, just different lifestyles.
Like kids being exposed to germs, going to public school versus being homeschooled. So it's just It's
just a lot to it. We're talking with Christy Driscoll. She is with Safe Harbor Sanctuary and also in our United States military. Thank you for your service. I'll talk again about that. I kind of want to come back around and talk about what you do and how long you've been in the military, because you've been. Let me do a break, because I need to go ahead and do a break here. But she's my friend. Her and Matt are just dear friends, and so you will see them a lot on these, as much as we can get them in here. But I do love talking to her about all the stuff that she's doing with horses, and also about what she does militarily is fascinating as well. So we're going to continue our conversation with Christy, but we do need to talk about Barry and Rebecca Richards with Exit Prime Realty. Love these folks. So excited to talk about them and all the things that are going on. I'm trying to pull up. Barry had an award that he got. I'm going to see if I can find it. I meant to bring this up earlier, but Barry Richards had a special designation, one of the top realtors in the area. Let me see if I can find that because it came up during Christmas, and I thought, oh, I've got to talk about that. It was so funny. He was one of the first phone calls I made whenever I found out that we had this new ranking for Greenbrier High School. We're now a level 5 school and a B-rated school. We are so up in the rankings now as far as schools, it increases your property values. And I thought, well, I'm going to call him and say, hey, you can start talking about that. And he's like, no, realtors actually can't talk about that because that's considered steering somebody to a particular. You can tell people, you know, where to go, maybe check it out, but you can't give them advice on that. And that's something I didn't realize. But he's a top realtor. And as a matter of fact, just was named Exit Prime Realty as one of the top 100 for Exit Realty. So Exit Prime, and Barry Richards with Exit Prime Realty is one of the top 100 at Exit Realty. That's amazing because he has not been at this, forever. He came at this about full time, I wouldn't say 5 or 6 years ago. Rebecca has been at this quite a bit longer. She has been, and she was one of the first in the area to be a seniors real estate specialist. They both came out of different careers, and they got interested in real estate part-time. Next thing you know, they've gone full-time, and my goodness, they are full-time, and they are excellent. They're excellent realtors. They work independently of each other. She has a agency office up in White House. He has the brokerage office here in Springfield, and they combined those two offices to bring you Exit Prime Realty. They were part of the Garden Gate team for many years, but earlier last year, they switched over, and I can't say enough about working with these folks. If you're somebody like them, you're in a different career and you want to do something different, they're like, hey, we'll mentor you, and we'll bring you into the fold, and we'll teach you what you need to know because they've been through it themselves. And they are also, the great to talk to, whether you're buying or selling, whatever it is, when you come into the table. They can make sure you know exactly how much home you can purchase. Barry is out of a marketing background, so he knows exactly how to package your property and make it seen in the best light to make sure you're going to get top dollar for what you're looking at. They're up in Cross Plains. They've been there for nearly 30 years, Cross Plainians, but they've worked all over, and they're also from Kentucky. So while they specialize in Robertson County properties, they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky. Great folks, my friends, Barry and Rebecca Richards, Exit Prime Realty. You can connect with them at sellwithbecky.com or buyrobertsoncounty.com, or you can just give Rebecca a call at 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425, and please always let them know that U-Turn sent you. And as we get back into the show, my friend Christy Driscoll is with us, and we're going to talk about the military.
I keep saying this is 2025 already. It'll be 26 years in June.
Okay.
Yeah. But real quick, let me just say, I got a couple more things about Safe Harbor.
Oh, we can come back around to that too, but go right ahead.
Yeah, I do need help with something.
Okay.
So if anybody in the air know of any songwriters, we are trying to plan a writers for racehorses. We did this last year where we had songwriters come in, the band called We Imperfect Few from Epiphany came and sung for us. They're absolutely amazing. But we're trying to do that event again in March timeframe. And then looking for sponsors. So we are completely off of donations. We're trying to, we do a couple things for fundraisers where we sell t-shirts and stuff. But if we could find someone that would help sponsor us to where their logo goes on the shirt also, that would be amazing. And then we attempted to do a calendar at the end of 2024 to sell in 2025, but we just ran into, we got amazing pictures and the calendar started, but we just ran into financial issues where we couldn't get that started. So we're going to try pushing that to maybe we can still do it this year. If somebody's like, yes, I would love to sponsor that and then put your business logo on there, that would be amazing. So that's just a couple things that my organization, Safe Harbor Sanctuary, could really use some help. So if anyone's interested, just reach out to me, contact me through Facebook, and we'll be in touch. So
go through those again. So you would love to put out a calendar. So if that's something that you could do, if you've got some kind of a print, if you're a digital designer, if you could help them with that, that might be something that you would really want to own and help them push out. So a calendar, I think that'd be fabulous. Yeah. And kind of see the stories of some of these horses, right? I think that'd be really cool. And then you need people to sponsor some of the foster horses. Maybe you can't foster yourself, but you can sponsor somebody that's fostering, and you can also volunteer.
Yes.
And come out and be a part of it. And what else did you say?
And then also, so let's say that
t-shirts,
that you're a business. If, for example, you're a vet in the equine world, or you're a fair, you can not even work in the equine world, but you're like, I would love to be able to help out this horse rescue. So yes, I'll give you $200 to go toward your shirts, and let's say that your company's ABC Tree something.
Right.
Then on the logo, it's an advertisement, just like like Nike gets their
their sponsorships.
Yeah. So just to kind of help us go in on the bulk of purchasing the shirts.
Okay, so there you go, and we'll come back around to that at the end, just to kind of remind you of all the things that they're working on. But while I've got you here, though, I do want to talk about your military service, because you've been in for 26 years, so you were going to retire at 30 years.
Yes.
Some can retire at 20, right? Mm-hmm. But you chose to stay in for 30.
So, yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so why military? What made you go this way? Is it because of your dad, you think, or?
Yes. So family history, my dad's dad was in, my father was in. It's my grandfather was Army, my dad's Air Force. I joined the Air Force. My daughter's Air Force. So, but he was active duty, stationed just kind of just around the country. And he decided to get out of active duty. He Palace Chase into the Air National Guard, joined the Air National Guard unit out of Nashville. We were still living in Kentucky. And so I grew up in that world, the Air Force world, military brat. In high school, I wanted to be a veterinarian. College is expensive, so the Guard helps pay for college. I really did want to go active duty. I wanted to stay local. The Guard is one of the best keep secrets in the military. I've been around the world. I've seen the world, but I have never PCS. I've never had a permanent change of station. I've been in different units in Nashville, but I've stayed in Nashville for 26 years. So that's been absolutely amazing. So I joined to pay for college. I got hired on full time. So with the National Guard, it's the weekend warriors is what they used to kind of call us. You drill 1 weekend a month, and you got to at least do 2 weeks a year. But then there is an active force of that, the full-time employees that keep all the lights on, basically. It's a very easy way to explain it. So I got hired on full-time shortly after coming back from basic training and technical school, and that kind of diverted me a little bit from college. I've actually never got my vet degree. That's probably an obvious thing. I kind of went a different path. But I joined for college, and then I got hired on full time, and I absolutely loved it. So, and I've been doing that for it'll be 26 years this June. So yeah,
that's really cool. I love it. Now, is Hannah going to still be a vet?
So
is that still her path?
Yeah,
that's her daughter, and that's kind of the that's her drive, right?
Yeah, that's so following my footsteps in a way. She did the exact same thing. She's got the passion for animals that I have, and she wants to go veterinarian too. And so she goes to UT Martin, University of Tennessee at Martin.
Good school for that, basically.
Yeah, that's why she chose it. It had the highest acceptance rates for vet school. She's in her junior year now, so
that's
yeah.
Hard. Really?
No, it goes by so fast. Yeah.
Oh,
her junior year of college.
Possible. She's in her junior year, so I mean, she's half good land.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then so when I
possible.
joined in the I joke about this, but when I joined in the 1900s, the education benefits wasn't that great. It was just a small stipend a month. But now with what's called the Tennessee Strong Act, she gets 100% tuition. So she's doing, I'm air quoting here, the part-time military for what it is. And she's doing that, and they're paying 100% for her schooling. So that is a reimbursement. She has to pay up front, and then she gets reimbursed. But and then she also gets the Montgomery GI Bill, that small stipend she gets a month, and that kind of basically pays her car payment for her.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
that's amazing. I mean, that's one thing I can't say enough about kiddos that are trying to figure out. College is so expensive. If you're really wanting to get a higher education and not wanting to do the debt, then go military, because it is just the best deal ever. And with my son Jedediah, the one that went into the military, he did his time in, went to Afghanistan, all the things, and when he got out, went in and used his GI Bill and got 2 degrees. and is doing fabulous.
Yep.
I mean, just you can't say enough about how well he's doing. And the military financed it. I mean, it just, and they don't pay them well when they're in there, but when they're active duty, I mean, they paid a little more when he was in Afghanistan. But that's one of the things that just shocked me as his mother, seeing that what they were being paid. And then that living on base, they took out money for mess hall and all that. And I was like, what? Because that's the persona people think. It's like, well, you don't get paid a lot, but then you've got all your housing and food and all that. No, they take that out of your check. It's like, what? So anyway, but the benefit of the education benefit makes it all worthwhile, big, especially early on.
And then just the training that the military gives you.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, because I mean that diversity, that diverse training. That my husband and I were talking about that yesterday. From a CTE, we're career and technical education teachers, and so from a CTE perspective, the more you know, the further you go. And I mean that's just it in anything. And military is one of those foundational things that will give you just such a broad baseline that it's just going to serve you well, and then and open doors big.
Yeah. So in my organization, the type of not work for, but yes, I guess I work for. It's funny saying work for when you're in the military because it's so much part of your life. But the group that I am assigned to is an intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance group. So the training that our intel analyst gets is, it starts off just like about 6 months, and then they go to a different school. So all this training that they get, we have trouble keeping them because they could go up and work up in the DC area and just make bukus of money.
Yeah.
But that skill sets that they get on the intelligence analyst world, then the civilian world that the businesses are just grasping them for is absolutely amazing. And then my IT people, the skill sets they get is the same thing. So we're just like really like trying to hang on to people because the training, the education that you're going to get in this, we were talking about the IT world. You mentioned CT for example, and that you don't have to pay for, that will help you find jobs out in the civilian world is pretty amazing. It's worth it. So
yeah, for sure, it's an amazing opportunity.
And then you get to serve your country.
There you go. There's that. Serving your country too. And I always say one of my biggest regrets is I did not serve my country.
Right. I say it like that because I talked a lot this month about like trying to recruit people, and I don't know if it's a generational thing or what it is, but it's more so what's in it for me. And you don't necessarily have a lot of young people like, okay, I'm going to go serve my country. And maybe they don't see the need for it or whatever, but what's in it for me? So that's where I'm trying to focus on the education benefits and the training that you'll get. But
well, it's just like I've heard several students, they're like, I'm going to do the military and I'm just doing it for the education. But, once you get in there, I think you will find the rest of it. I think you have to.
And I think it's absolutely okay.
Yeah. I do too. Yeah.
Because you still need the people, and whatever their why is, as long as their why is important enough for them to keep showing up every day and doing the job, then that's great. But the fact that they have the why to come and do it is what's needed.
A lot of there's immigrant families I've worked with that's been a pathway to citizenship for some. And just all kinds of ways. And again, it was the thing that saved my kid's life. I don't have any doubt in my life because he was in all kinds of knuckleheaded stuff. And had just made a lot of really bad decisions. And it wasn't like the court said you need to go in the military. He made the decision to, but I think he could see that he needed some discipline in his life, and it was just the perfect answer for us. So, if you want to talk about military recruitment, she can point you in the right direction. And I do appreciate your service, sister.
Oh, thank you.
Very proud of you, and Chief Driscoll. I love it.
So you mentioned my promotion ceremony that you came to. I want to share something that was really beautiful about that moment. I don't know if you noticed that. So my father retired as a chief as well, and a chief is very hard to get. It's a very select few of the enlisted force. In the military, you have enlisted and you have officers. So that's the highest you can go and enlisted as an E9. So it was a dream of mine for years. I was very glad to finally get it. And part of it was my father retired as a chief, so I wanted to be like him, you know. And he retired in 2015. And shortly after he retired, he gave me a set of his chief stripes. And what they tacked on me that day, so my kids did it, my dad and my husband did it. Both set of those stripes were my dad's stripes.
Yeah.
And I got emotional. I don't know if you remember that. I got emotional talking about that. So yeah, that was.
I thought that was very cool. I thought that was very cool that they were your dads. I just loved it.
It
It was
walking
just,
in the footsteps kind of analogy.
very much so. Very much so. And just it was just a neat day. It was just a very cool day, and having Hannah there and Noah there and your brother was there. What is your brother's?
So my brother's an officer. He outranks me.
Yeah, I know. I heard. We saw that back and forth too. It was really kind of interesting.
I am so
to watch.
proud of him, and that's something else that I love about the Guard is so. There was a time my dad was out there, my little brother was out there, and I was out there. Now my dad's retired, but my daughter's out there. And that happens a lot. There's a lot of family members, and we're all the same base. Yeah. So one of my additional duties is I work with my little brother's office, and it's a good way of explaining that. So I get to see him and call him about work stuff, and something that annoys the civilian side of my family, what family get-togethers, we're all talking about work. Like, we're always talking about something at work. Yeah. And then my mom and sister is like, God, can't y'all talk about something else?
Other than military stuff. That's hysterical. I can imagine. Because it's just like I get in the room. I've got 2 kids that work at HCA. Yeah. And they're both in the technology side of it. They do, one's in cloud distribution, one's in the kind of cyber kind of thing and all that. But that's when they start talking, it's just like, what are y'all talking about? Yeah. It's just like so funny. Yeah. Because your eyes glaze over because you don't understand it, you don't follow it. So having that camaraderie, I can totally get that because I've seen them grow and get closer as siblings because they have that commonality where they can talk about the same stuff, And so it's just kind of cool when you have that. I think it's a great legacy to have a family like that. Yeah. And that's really cool. Thank you so much for serving in the way you do. But I just had to visit the fact, especially the fact that you made chief and got that really cool statue for your desk. That's the coolest thing ever. That's neat.
And I love it. Like, so it's an Indian head, and I have Cherokee in me. My dad's grandmother was full-blooded Cherokee, so I have Cherokee in me. So I've always been very drawn to Indians. Yeah. And just having that chief head, like, is just something to where there was a little bit to where I just didn't like the way control grades and all that stuff. I won't bore you with all that, but like I almost didn't think I've been in a chief slot since 2021, and just the way just trying to wait, like some people active duty may be familiar with like line numbers, and it's not kind of quite the same with the Guard, but it was similar. Just like I just didn't think it was ever going to happen. Right. And I had to change statuses to make it all work out, but. I was like, I almost for a little bit was like, is this ever going to work? There was just roadblocks after roadblocks. And it was really just God's timing, you know? And, but having that chief's head, like I got like emotional. I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to get it.
It was cool. Yeah. It was cool. It was a cool day. We were honored to be a part of it. So thank you for inviting us. But Chief Christy Driscoll, that's why I was calling her Chief. But it's just pretty neat stuff. And just excited for you to be able to retire in a few years and have that 30 years in.
I love it. I can't wait.
I know. Yeah. I know you're ready. I know you're ready. But initially, while she came in here, we're going to circle back to Safe Harbor Sanctuary. And this is an opportunity for you. If you have always loved horses and you want to get involved with horses, well, maybe the very first thing you need to do is like she did, is just go volunteer and see what it's all about. And then you might see that, yes, I could foster a horse. Because as we were talking early on, you think about the expense of it. My husband and I would just love to have some Belgians that we just own for pulling. Well, we could foster some of their horses and we'd have all that help financially.
You can't just have one horse. You have to have at least 2.
Yeah, you got to have, because they get lonely.
They do.
And honestly, any animal, any pet that's alone, I think I think you always need more than one pet, because unless you're there all the time, they need a companion.
And if you foster one of our standardbreds, they do harness too. So.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, how cool! I love that. And so, do y'all have to pull them? These are horses that are going to be basically destroyed because they can't pull anymore. Is that the one kind of horses? How do you end up with horses?
So we started on that just a little bit. Yeah. So the standardbreds.
You're at the end.
We're almost auctions. We advertise with Amish community. We have in newsletters and things like that we'll take the horse, like the standardbreds that when you're done with them, we'll take them. So you don't have to take them to the auction. But where hurts the standardbreds is that when they end up at the auctions, that there's times to where kill buyers get involved, and the kill buyers like the standardbreds because they're big horses and they get a lot of money to ship them to Mexico. Most of our horses in this area go to Mexico for slaughter. And then, it's just financial reasons, things like that. But we're also trying to build a relationship with the Oak Grove racing community to where we can they can donate their horses when they're done racing to us. And standardbreds are such good horses. They've been on the roads, they've been on the races, so they're not easily spooked, and they're very good horses to do a little bit of everything with.
Yeah,
I should have talked more about the standardbreds. So maybe next time.
I didn't even think about that because it's just something that occurred to me as we're wrapping up. But it is 8:00, so we do have to wrap it up. But if you're interested, how can they get in touch with you if they're interested?
I'm going to put all this stuff on the Facebook.
Okay, she'll put it up on the Facebook. But now some people listen and don't do Facebook. Can you give us
Safe Harbor Sanctuary.
So just
Google Safe Harbor Sanctuary. In Nashville, Tennessee, the website Safe Harbor Standardbreds is what's the name of it is. Okay. And you can find us.
Safe Harbor Standardbreds, Safe Harbor Sanctuary. If you just Google those things, you'll find it. Yep. And if you are where you can get on social media and look at the shows, she'll have it up in comments. So very good. Love you, sister. Thank you for serving. Thank you for what you do. And thank you guys for letting me get back on here. Love it. I'm so glad to be back. And tomorrow the plan is we're going to visit with a couple of the principals. It kind of depends on, with us getting back in school, I've got to check with them and make sure they're still on board with that. But that's what we've had on schedule for the second, for the first Tuesday. Is this the first Tuesday? I'm so discombobulated. It's like, this is Monday. So tomorrow will be the first Tuesday. Yeah. So typically the first Tuesday is when we have in a couple of principals from here in Romulus County. So that's the plan. We'll see what happens to see if they're still up for it because they're like me. They're still trying to get their head back in the game. All right. Welcome back, guys.